A story has emerged from Adamawa State that speaks to the heart of justice, mercy, and the complicated realities faced by farmers across Nigeria. Sunday Jackson, a farmer who was sentenced to death for killing a herder, has received a pardon from Governor Ahmadu Umaru Fintiri. This development came just in time for Christmas, offering Jackson and his family a second chance at life and freedom. The circumstances surrounding this case reveal much about the tensions between farmers and herders in Nigeria, the struggle for survival, and how one man's act of self-defense led him down a path that nearly cost him his life. Sunday Jackson's ordeal began in circumstances that many Nigeria farmers would find all too familiar. He was working on his farm, tending to the land that provided sustenance for his family, when he encountered herders whose cattle were destroying his crops. In Nigeria, especially in states like Adamawa, the conflict between farmers and herders has become a persistent problem that threatens lives and livelihoods. Farmers plant their crops with hope and hard work, only to see them trampled and consumed by cattle. When they try to protect what is theirs, confrontations arise, and sometimes these confrontations turn deadly. The situation is not just about damaged crops or lost income, it is about survival itself for families who depend entirely on what they can grow on their small plots of land. In Jackson's case, what began as an attempt to protect his farm escalated into a violent encounter. Details from the incident indicate that Jackson felt his life was in danger during the confrontation with the herder. In what he maintained was an act of self-defense, he ended up killing the herder. This tragic outcome led to his arrest, prosecution, and eventual sentencing to death by hanging. For years, Jackson sat in prison, waiting for the day when the state would execute him for an act he claimed was necessary to save his own life. His family suffered without their breadwinner, his farm lay abandoned and overgrown, and the community watched as one of their own faced the ultimate punishment for what many believed was a justified act of self-preservation. The legal system had spoken, but many questioned whether justice had truly been served. Was this a case of cold-blooded murder, or was it a desperate act by a man who saw no other way to protect himself and his livelihood? These questions lingered in the minds of those who knew Jackson's story and understood the daily dangers farmers face in these conflict zones. Self-defense is recognized under Nigerian law, but proving it in court is another matter entirely. The burden of proof, the quality of legal representation, and the circumstances of the case all play crucial roles in determining the outcome. For Jackson, the court decision was death, a verdict that seemed to many observers to be excessively harsh given the context of farmer-herder conflicts in the region and the genuine threat he faced that day on his farm. Governor Fintiri's decision to grant Jackson a pardon represents a significant intervention in what had become a controversial case that many felt represented a miscarriage of justice. The pardon was announced as part of a broader clemency initiative that coincided with Christmas season, a time traditionally associated with forgiveness, mercy, and new beginnings. The governor's action was based on recommendations from the State Advisory Council on Prerogative of Mercy, a body established to review cases where mercy might be appropriate. This council examines the circumstances of convictions, considers factors such as the conduct of prisoners, the nature of their offenses, and whether there are grounds for reducing sentences or granting pardons. Their work is crucial in ensuring that the justice system remains humane and responsive to individual circumstances that courts might not fully consider during trials. Jackson was not the only beneficiary of this clemency initiative. The governor's pardon extended to other individuals who had been convicted of various offenses. Some received outright pardons, while others had their sentences reduced or commuted to lighter punishment. This approach reflects an understanding that the criminal justice system, while necessary for maintaining order and accountability, is not infallible, and that there are times when mercy and second chances serve the interests of justice better than rigid adherence to sentences handed down years earlier. For Jackson specifically, the pardon means freedom from a death sentence that hung over him like a dark cloud, robbing him of hope and his family of peace for what must have felt like an eternity. The timing of this pardon is particularly significant and deeply symbolic. Christmas is a season when many reflect on themes of redemption, forgiveness, and the possibility of transformation. By granting these pardons during this period, Governor Fintiri has sent a powerful message about the values he believes should guide governance in Adamawa State. It is a recognition that while laws must be enforced to maintain social order, there must also be room for compassion, especially in cases where the circumstances suggest that strict enforcement of the law might result in injustice rather than justice. This balance between law and mercy is what distinguishes truly wise leadership from mere administration of rules. If you are following this story and finding it compelling, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to this channel because we bring you stories that matter, stories that affect real lives and communities across Nigeria. We want to keep you informed about developments like this, and your subscription helps us continue doing this important work of telling the stories that mainstream media sometimes overlooks. The broader context of farmer-herder conflicts in Nigeria cannot be ignored when examining Jackson's case. These conflicts have claimed thousands of lives across the country and displaced entire communities from their ancestral lands. In states like Adamawa, Benue, Plateau, and Taraba, the violence has been particularly severe, with some communities living in constant fear. Farmers complain that herders allow their cattle to graze on farmland, destroying crops that represent months of labor and investment. Herders argue that they are being pushed off traditional grazing routes by expanding agriculture and climate change, which has made it harder to find adequate pasture for their animals. Both groups are struggling to survive in an environment where resources are becoming scarcer and competition more fierce. This competition for land and resources has created a volatile situation where minor disputes can quickly escalate into deadly violence. The federal and state governments have tried various interventions, from establishing grazing reserves to promoting ranching as an alternative to open grazing, but progress has been slow and the conflicts continue to claim lives. Against this backdrop, cases like Jackson's become even more complex and heart-wrenching. How do you distinguish between aggression and self-defense when both farmers and herders feel threatened and are struggling to survive? How do you deliver justice when the root causes of the conflict remain unaddressed? Jackson's pardon raises important questions about how the justice system handles cases arising from these conflicts. Should the courts take into account the broader context of farmer-herder tensions when judging individual cases? Should there be special considerations for acts committed in confrontations over land and resources? These are essential questions for ensuring that justice is both fair and relevant to the realities people face on the ground every day. The emotional impact of this pardon on Jackson and his family must be immense and almost impossible to fully comprehend. Imagine spending years on death row, knowing that at any moment the state could carry out your execution. Imagine the psychological toll of that uncertainty, the nightmares, the constant fear, and the pain of being separated from loved ones with no guarantee of ever seeing them again. Then imagine receiving news that you are pardoned, that you are free to go home, to rebuild your life, to hold your family members again. For Jackson, this Christmas will be unlike any other, a genuine miracle that transforms his future from certain death to one of possibility and hope. His children will have their father back, his wife will have her husband, and his community will welcome home a man they believe was wrongly condemned. The joy and relief they must feel is probably beyond words, a reminder that behind every legal case and every prison sentence, there are real families whose lives are profoundly affected by these decisions. This case also highlights the power and importance of the prerogative of mercy as an instrument of justice in any civilized society. While the courts have the authority to impose sentences based on the law as written, there must be mechanisms for reviewing those sentences when circumstances warrant reconsideration. The prerogative of mercy, exercised through the governor on the advice of a council, provides that essential mechanism. It acknowledges that laws are made by humans and applied by humans, and that both are fallible and subject to error or excessive harshness. For those of you watching who work in agriculture or who have family members farming in areas affected by these conflicts, this story probably resonates in a special way. You understand the fear and frustration that comes with seeing your hard work destroyed and feeling powerless to protect it. You understand the impossible choices people like Jackson face when confrontation becomes unavoidable. Your experiences and perspectives are valuable, and I encourage you to share them in the comments below. Let us know what you think about this pattern and what you believe should be done to address farmer-herder conflicts more broadly. And while you are down there commenting, please remember to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you do not miss future stories that matter to you and your community.